welcome to Tune In. Today we have Sandeep Rathod, the General Counsel at Piramal Pharma with us. Sandeep, welcome to the show and thank you for doing this with us.
The pleasure is mine, Clarence. It's always good to talk to you and your team.
Thanks, Sandeep. So the first question is around M&A deal making in the pharma space. How does your team proactively identify and deal with legal risks and legal considerations when exploring an M&A deal?
The legal risks that come on an M&A deal are sector agnostic and some are sector specific. On the sector agnostic deals, we rely more on the external counsel because they have more business side or policy side exposure. On sector specific deals, the in-house team would be having more inputs on what are the types of competing brands that are there, what could be the risks that are associated, are there any licensing issues that are there. So the in-house team, just like the external law firm team, has to be created for the deal, built upon experience, such that you keep different stakeholders from, say, the licensing and regulatory team, business, supply chain, and legal to look at the various risks during the due diligence phase with the external counsel.
Great. Thanks, Sandeep. This is actually a great segue into a couple of other questions that I have. IP issues tend to be one of the key considerations in most pharma M&A deals. So I'd like you to speak about trademarks and patent considerations when exploring M&A deals in this space.
So, see, I have been part of deals where we are just licensing as a pool of licensees also, and also a buyer when we were a single buyer for a particular piece of IP. Now, when you are a co-licensee, you are one amongst many, and you really are not too worried about what could be a problem at the licensor's end. The considerations change dramatically when it is basically a buy-sell transaction or a perpetual assignment kind of a deal where you're effectively taking the brand or the patent for the rest of its remaining life. Now, in such a situation, my experience has been that brands require a certain bit of sensitivity, because at times you would have seen that the chain of ownership for brand, that is the trademark per se, that chain of ownership is not there.
And I think we ourselves in our work with you have seen some unique challenges around trademark assignments, having to structure the assignment documentation in a way that optimizes for commercial considerations.
Coming back to what you and I have seen from a patent perspective, I would say that in India, you should be sensitive today on getting the freedom to operate validated from an external advisor, because at the end of the day, the patent is time specific, unlike a brand or a trademark deal which you're getting for a longer term. So the risk is higher today if your due diligence on the patent freedom to operate front is not correctly done.
So Sandeep, being a regulated sector, there is a lot of information that's publicly available. Also, many pharma companies are listed. However, in deal making, confidentiality and discretion play a very important role. So any insights on how you balance the two?
Information can be of two types, majorly in pharma. One is the technical / what people would normally call the science information, and the other is the business information. Within the Indian specific context of branded formulations which are non-patented, I wouldn't worry too much personally, either as a buyer or as a seller also, about the technical / science information, because at the end of the day it's a genericized product, and there's not too much that is passing through the hands from the buyer to the seller, except an actual drug sale license, a manufacturing license and a sale license. I am more concerned about financial information, both as a buyer and seller, and going forward I would be more concerned about the implications of the DPDP Act on potential deal making. How does the DPDP Act look at data available within the deal rooms? For example, you'll have the employee data available there, right? You may have certain key contracts data. Now, which parts of those data have an interface with the DPDP? And how do deal lawyers from both sides, the buy side and the sell side, look at actions during, prior and after the due diligence period? What they would want to do or would like to do for adhering to DPDP once the rules are out is something that I'm curious about.
Fantastic. So Sandeep, pharma is a highly regulated space. We're seeing new entrants in the space, new opportunities for growth, new startups getting involved on the distribution, marketing, retail side. How do you see developments in this space over the next year or two?
Pharma and healthcare is a very big and broad space. Apart from hospitals, you have pharmaceutical manufacturing, then you have domestic deal making. Then one other thing which we are seeing is also India is becoming big on the devices space. You also have new deals coming in where people are partnering. We've seen some Indian companies take investments and then create a full R&D program. And now 2-3 years down the line, I see a lot more PE exits happening because quite a few funds will exit from their investments made some years ago as a part of the normal business cycle at their end. So then this brings the next level of nuance that here was an Indian asset, a PE from abroad put money into it. Now who will be the next buyer? So I believe that both for external lawyers like you and in-house lawyers like me, we should be looking at how to understand exits, because the buy-ins have happened, the exits will now come.
I think there are also pharma players that are not currently listed, which may explore the IPO route as the way of, offering an exit to their investors. And we've had
Or they may look at switch of investors. I believe that with the current regulatory environment in India that we have, with the strengthening of UCPMP and a more focus on pricing, companies may not be too keen in our sector to go to the IPO route so easily. I see a switch of investors as a bigger probability numerically than IPOs.
Got it. I have one more question, leveraging on your experience. Maybe if you could speak about what are some of the key areas of focus that you expect from M&A Counsel and the key areas of support.
I think one of the reasons that I prefer your kind of guidance to us is because the external counsel should be looking at and guiding the in-house counsel's legal team and the in-house tax team on what are the potential options or the potential risks, because that is a big value add that the external counsel can bring. It has to be always a partnership, and the partnership can work faster and it can work better. So the external counsel always will have more experience on the number of deals done. The in-house counsel will have more experience on what is of value to his business. So these two key points need to work together to the end result that the deal needs to be done with the least amount of risk transferred.
I think that just about covers it.
I do have a question for you before you exit. You do deals across sectors. So how is your experience on pharma deals any different from your other deals?
What we've realized is that deal making, especially M&A deal making across sectors, there are sector specific considerations and then there are general deal making considerations. The general deal making considerations work well, agnostic to the sector. However, when you're dealing with regulated sectors such as pharma, financial services, power and so on, there are a number of sector specific considerations which necessarily impact the way you structure the deal. But needless to add, I think the deal complexity has definitely increased over the past few years. The targets in India have become more and more sophisticated in the way they want to structure their exits. So private equity buyers, strategic buyers looking at targets in India are dealing with an increasingly competitive deal environment. At the end of the day, if targets in India are getting great value for their assets, it's great for the Indian economy. And thank you for bringing this up.
Appreciating the clarity.
Thank you so much, Sandeep. Thank you for your time. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you, Clarence. Always a pleasure to speak to you, and my best wishes to Team Paralegal.